Jeff Glover here from Glover U, coming at you today with a special Relead session. Each and every Wednesday at 11:30 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, we are giving agents and brokers and owners and leaders the tools they need to run a successful business, run a successful office, run a successful team, whatever it is that you're running. And today is a special one because it is the official launch of the post-COVID business plan. Now, I want to start off by saying, trust me when I tell you, we are very sensitive to what is happening in different parts of the country. I know I talk to a lot of our coaching clients in different parts that say, hey, it's business as usual. I had a call with a group yesterday down in Texas that said, we had like a 2 or 3% drop in sales in our MLS in the month of April. Compared to Michigan, by the way, that was a 72% drop in sales. So I get that there's major contrasts in terms of what's happening in each market in terms of the economics, and I realize that there's major contrast in terms of the health and safety and the progress of COVID. For the most part, almost everyone I'm talking to is saying that their numbers are improving and things are starting to feel a little bit back to normal, a little bit back to business. So we decided now was an appropriate time to launch the post-COVID business plan. Again, my name is Jeff Glover. You're joining us for another great session of Relead. The Relead program started, as you see behind me, their lead agent training program. It started as a program for agents leading teams, as there's not a lot of training out there for that group. There's not a lot of coaching out there for that group. Well, it became so popular that we ended up having team leaders and brokers and owners and investors and people from all companies from all over the country joining us for the Relead session each and every Wednesday at 11:30 Eastern. So although some of our topics, or at least my original plan, which was to go through, creating a mission, creating a value proposition, putting together your company business plan, putting together your recruiting plan, actually doing the act of recruiting and the recruiting presentation. We've done all of that, by the way. So hopefully you've been joining us for all of those sessions. But we've also had to add a couple extra sessions, if you will, given what has happened due to COVID. So this one is one that we would have anyways. In fact, part of our 18-week Relead series was agent business planning. So you're just getting it in a different format today in the form of a post-COVID business plan, because any successful business, real estate office, real estate team needs to have their agents on business plans. Agents, at the end of the day, are business people and should be operating from a plan. And it's your job as a leader of a real estate office or a real estate company to make sure they're aware of the plan and how to follow it. So today we dive into the agent business plan, but the post-COVID. So for those of you that are in production, this is perfect for you because this is everything you're going to need to know and do for the second half of this year. In fact, second half plus a month if you count June. Because the plan starts June 1. This is also the same exact plan that we're sharing with our team on the ground here in Michigan, which, by the way, if this is your first time joining us, I've been in the business now, crazy to say it, 18 years come June. Yes, 18 years in the business, selling over 100 homes a year since 2008. I'm still on the ground taking listings each and every day, and our team sells close to 1,000 homes a year in the great state of Michigan. So if you're first time on, you're hearing from someone that's on the ground with you and knows exactly what you're going through. Not something that I read in the book or I read in a Facebook group a few weeks back that people were having success with, right? There's plenty of those out there. So every time I talk, I'm going to give you exactly what it is that we're doing each and every day. And of course, today is no different because I'm going through the exact same plan that we shared with our agents. So before we dig into the post-COVID business plan, we have a giveaway every single week for those that are sharing ahas, taking screenshots of themselves or selfies while they're in the session. We ask that you just utilize the hashtag GloverU or hashtag Relead. We scour the internet for those and we randomly select someone to receive some goods. And some of those goods, it can be as basic as a Live Unreal water bottle, or as great as a nice $200 backpack or $120 quarter zip polo or golf shirts or whatever. So each and every week, if you share an aha and attach hashtag GloverU and hashtag Relead to it, we will search it out, we will find it, and we will pick a random person to win a prize just for joining us and just for spreading the word about GloverU and what we're doing here at Relead. So this week's winner is, put it on the screen, please. All right, Tammy Danielson. Hey, learning what I need to better myself and my role in the industry. Hashtag at home training. Hashtag Glover U. Hashtag Relead. You are going home with the women's V-neck tee. So congratulations, Tammy. We will get that out in the mail to you and enjoy that t-shirt. Thanks for joining us each and every week. Okay, let's jump into the post-COVID agent business plan. Now, you're probably wondering, where's my copy? Now, here's the deal, all right? There's really two parts to this session. One part is the hard copy business plan, which everyone's going to get a copy of, everyone that joined us today. But the other part is the instruction that goes along with it. Now, we didn't want to just send you the plan in advance because we know the reality is if I were just to send you the plan, maybe you'd print it, maybe you wouldn't. If you did print it, maybe it'd sit on your desk for a while. Maybe you'd read a couple things in here and say, yeah, this is too confusing. I'm not going to use it. So instead, what we decided to do was give you the instruction first and then get the plan in your hand. So if you complete today's session, we can track who has been on and who has completed today's session. You are going to get the hard copy of this plan sent to you. If for whatever reason you have to leave before it's over, make sure that you're taking good notes, or you can take screen grabs of my screen, although it won't look as nice as actually getting the printed plan in your hand. So for everyone that's on, you will get this plan at the end of today's session. Probably about 30 minutes after today's session, you're going to get the plan. What I want you to do right now, because the plan is in sections, all right? What I want you to do right now, and I am going to share my screen here in a second, I want you to take out either a clean sheet of paper or I want you to open a new window and just kind of move the video over so you can follow along. And I want you to take notes on each section. I'm going to give you some notes for each section. So when I say in section 1, and you'll see it on the screen, I want you to write down A, B, and C. When you actually get the plan, 30 minutes after the session is over, you can grab your notes and line the two up. So that way you have all the instructions that you need to complete the post-COVID business plan. So let me share my screen here while you are pulling up a clean sheet of paper or maybe a new window or an email or something where you can take notes. And we're going to walk you through this plan. Okay, so everyone should be able to see the post-COVID business plan on my screen. And again, you're going to get a copy of this after today's session, at the conclusion of today's session. Again, this is the exact same plan that we're using with our team here in Michigan. Obviously, every market is different. Every economy is a little bit different. Your ratios may be different. So obviously, you'll have to make a determination of what makes sense to use, what not to use. And by the way, you may be saying, Jeff, I'm already a step ahead of you. I've already got a plan put together. Perfect. My hope is that you're on because you're looking for a few things that you could potentially add to that plan. So let's jump right in. Okay, post-COVID business plan. First things first, section 1. All right, section 1 is what we call year-to-date results. And essentially what you're doing in this section, and by the way, I should also probably say that when I put this plan together, my goal was to keep it as simple as possible. Many of you are already operating from the Glover U business plan that you got at the beginning of the year. Obviously, I know we have a lot of our clients on, or some of you that aren't clients, but you bought the plan. So I know a lot of you are operating from the 2020 plan, and that's great. What I'm going to encourage you to do is make this as essentially an addendum to this plan, all right? This was a complicated plan. This was a full business plan. So I realize that a lot of things have changed in the way we do business. So you're not totally throwing this plan away. You're just creating an addendum that goes along with it, all right? So this is giving you an opportunity to wipe the slate clean in some respects. So section 1, very simple. Total income paid, total closed deals, total listings taken, total listings sold, buyer offers written. Pretty self-explanatory stuff. A couple things I want to explain on here. Obviously, you know present pendings. Present listing inventory, present buyer pipeline. This is the one that our agents had a lot of questions on. Here's what we define as present buyer pipeline. All right, this is current buyers that you're actively showing homes to or have shown homes to in the last 14 days. So think about how many buyers you're working with that you've shown homes to in the last 14 days, or maybe you utilize the showing agent model that we recommend and they're out with showing agents right now or have been in the last 2 weeks. All right, so if you got 6 buyers you're actively showing homes to or have shown a home to in the last 14 days, you write the number 6 down on there. All right, obviously you can get these numbers probably from your broker, from your team leader, from your accountant, whoever tracks your books. Obviously you can figure a lot of this stuff out on your own. Okay, the first couple sections are pretty basic, self-explanatory. Section 2 is where we start to figure out some of the ratios. All right, Section 2, June to December. This is the opportunity to essentially wipe the slate clean for the last half of the year plus June. And what I'm going to recommend that you do, looking at closed deals goal, I want you to put in there what you want to close between now and the end of the year, what you want to close from June 1 to December 31. So that's not your total number. Now, how you're going to arrive at that number is this, all right? There's 3 types of agents right now. There's agents out there that are very much on track for their goals, and I would encourage you to figure out how many you closed, how many you have pending, and then write up a new goal. If you're on track for your goals, my rule of thumb is always, if you're on track for your goals, to increase your goal. Why is that? Couple reasons this year. Well, number one, if you're normally the first quarter, we have a saying in our company, the first quarter is the worst quarter. Right. So if you have a bad first quarter, then that's okay. You can always make it up in quarter 2, 3, and 4. If you have a great first quarter, gangbuster first quarter, then maybe you're ahead of the game. And if you're ahead of the game, you should always increase your goal, because majority of the time, especially if you're in a seasonal market, 60% of your closings, 60% of your income in this business, in 18 years of doing this, running real estate brokerages, working with agents, coaching agents, running teams, 60% of your business will close in the last half of the year. So when an agent tells me by July 1, hey, Jeff, my goal was 40, I'm at 20, I'm on track. No, actually, you're above track. You're tracking for probably 45 or 50 transactions. So this would be a good opportunity to increase your goal if you're actually on track year to date. All right. There's 3 types of agents. One agent that's on track or ahead of schedule. That would be an opportunity to increase your goal. Second type of agent, which is probably the majority of the agents and brokers and team leaders that work with a lot of agents watching today. The second type of agent is slightly behind on their goal. All right. That's probably the majority of the group out there. The ones that are, they had a goal to close 40 transactions this year, and maybe they're at 12 or 13, right? Now you may say, well, wait a minute, it's almost halfway through the year, 12 or 13, that's not on track. Remember, 60% of the business closes in the last half. And I even predicting, which I make a lot of bold predictions, from time to time. And many times I'm right, and sometimes I'm wrong. That's okay. That's just called life. If you remember, 3 months ago, I stood back here and I gave you the scenario of agent A and agent B. It was amazing when we were allowed to come back to work. When I looked at that whiteboard, I did that session, I think maybe the middle of March. The financial effects of the coronavirus. You don't need to watch it now because it's past, but I came back and all the whiteboard writing was still on the office, and I was looking at the impacts on agent A and agent B, and it was almost spot on, the impact that it had on each agent. So I'm going to make another prediction, and that is this year, I believe 65% or even 70% of the business that transacts in 2020 is going to happen in the last half of the year, right? Normally, on average, it's around 60%. I believe it's going to be closer to 65 or 70. So for those of you that are slightly behind, you might not actually be that behind at all, right? You have an opportunity to make it up in June and July, which we're going to talk about in a second. The third type of agent, which we know they're out there, and maybe that's you who I'm talking to, the third type of agent is substantially behind on their goal. That agent had a goal this year to sell 50 homes. Let's just say, well, I'll keep it consistent. Let's go with 40. They had a goal to sell 40 homes this year, and they have less than 10 closed. All right. There's plenty out there that are like that, by the way. Their goal was 40. They've got less than 10. Well, if you run the math out there, let's just say they have 10 to keep it simple, because I'm not that smart. So I like simple math. If you run the math on that, and even if 65%, my prediction of 65% will close in the last half versus the typical 60, you run that number out, that means they're going to end up around 25, 27 transactions closed for the year if 65% falls in the last half. Someone that's at 10 closed right now, if they just keep doing what they're doing. So their goal was 40. So what am I going to recommend they do in that case? All right. So let's just say they've done 10. They're on track for 25 based on 65% closes in the last half, 35% in the first half in 2020. They're on track for 25. Their goal was 40. I'm having a lot of agents ask me, so What should I do about my goal? Should I adjust my goal? My recommendation to that agent is to do this. My recommendation is that you split the difference, meaning if you're on track for 25 and your goal was 40, that's a difference of 15. What I'd recommend you do is you take that 15 and split the difference. So let's just round to 7, all right? So now your goal for the year, instead of 40, okay, because you're on track for 25, right? And I just gave you the math on how to figure that out. Instead, you're on track for 25, your goal was 40, the difference is 15. Let's split the difference there, cut that in half. It's 7.5, but we'll just round down to 7. Now your goal for the year is 32. You follow me? So you're at 10, you're on track for 25, you wanted 40. 40 is not that likely at this point. You split the difference of what you're on track for, what your goal was, round down or round up, I don't care which one you do, and add that to what you're on track for. All right, so again, in this particular scenario, on track for 25, difference between 25 and 40 is 15. Cut that in half, that's 7, split the difference. It's actually 7.5, we're rounding down to 7, and now your goal for the year is 32. So what you would do here in section 2, if you have 10 closed already and your new goal for the year is 32, you're actually going to write 22 down on number 1 right there. All right, so remember, we're talking closed deal goal just for that time period, June to December. I feel like I spent a lot of time on that explanation, but I hope you followed along. All right, so closed deal goal, written sales goal. Remember, your written sales it's always going to be a higher number. You should be able to see my screen here. I'm looking at my screen. It should be your written sales goal should almost always be a higher number. Why is that? Because not 100% of the deals you write close. So in this particular case, if I go back and look at the last 12 months and it looks like I've got about an 80% closing ratio, and I have the number 22 written here, you can see my cursor. I have the number 22 written in there. Then 80% or 20% of 22 is basically 4, call it 5. So I actually need to write 26 or 27 sales in order to close 22, right? Because my new goal is 32. I already got 10 closed. I need 22 more. So I can't write 22 and close 22. In most cases, I'm going to have some fallout. Let's say my fallout is 20%. By the way, the industry average is usually somewhere between 15 and 20%. So let's say I'm a little on the high side there. So I'm actually going to need to write 27 transactions to close 22 because I'm going to have 4.5 or 5 fall apart. Now I can do the math on total income because if I scroll back to the first section, my average sales price will tell me approximately what my average commission check is. So I write my total gross income there, and then I subtract my expenses to arrive at my taxable income. Now you'll see there I have in parentheses 5 to 10% if you're on a team, 25 to 50% if you're a solo agent. Agents that are on teams, generally speaking, have substantially lower expenses than agents that are running a solo business. So, 25 to 50%, I don't know your business. You're going to have to figure out what your expenses were last year and plug that number in to get to your taxable income. Daily minutes to prospect. I'm recommending everyone probably step this up by 30 minutes, especially if you're in the group that's behind on your goals. Contacts per day goal. Most of our agents right now are making between 15 and 20 contacts a day. Most of the agents that coach with us are making between 15 and 30 contacts a day. So you know what you're capable of. You know what's a reasonable number for you. Hey, if you've been averaging 10 a day, then I'm not going to expect you to double that or triple that number. I'm not going to make a recommendation that you go to 20 or that you go to 30. But if you're making 10 a day right now, you should probably go to 15, 16, 17. It needs to have an increase for sure. Because depending on what market you're in, depending on how hard your market was hit, you probably lost 45 to 60 days of solid productivity. The contacts per day is one way you can make that up. Part 8 through 13 on here. Okay, this is heavily based on your ratios. So I will share with you the ratios of agents that are coaching with us at Glover U, so you can get an idea there. Listing appointment gone on to listing taken. Our average in our coaching programs is about 60% gone on to taken. Most agents can get somewhere around 50, 45, 55% without a lot of training and a lot of coaching. If you're in some type of coaching or skills-based coaching program, you're probably more like 60 or 70. And if you're following along and you're saying, well, no, I'm more like 80 or 90, well, that's you probably know the old saying, and that means you're working with too many friends and family, right? There's two types of people you know people you don't know? Which group is bigger? You're probably working with mostly people you know, and that's why your conversion ratio is higher. At Glover U, we teach you how to effectively work people you know and people you don't know, and that will bring your ratios down, but ultimately your closings, your units, your income, all of that will increase. All right. So I'm going to have, I just wrote in the margin here. So if you're following along, section 2, some notes to write down. Listing appointment gone on to listing taken, I wrote down 60%. Now, if you want to actually figure out your exact number, it's actually pretty easy to do. It'll probably take you an extra 30 minutes or so, but it's a very simple activity. Depending on where you keep your calendar, you know, I know some of you out there utilize the business plan and you keep your calendar in here. Some of you do it in your phone. Some of you do it in your desktop. Whatever you use for your calendar, you can actually go back and see what listing appointments you've gone on. And you can look at how many listings you took, and you can figure out, oh, it looks like I went on 37 appointments in the last 12 months and I took 20 listings. Cool. You're just above 50%. Not bad, which, by the way, good agents are somewhere between 60, 65, 70%. So that's how you figure out listing gone on to listing taken ratio. You got to know that number. Listing sales written. Obviously, you know what percentage your listings are selling. I wrote down 85%. Depending on how well you price property, depending on what market you are in, you might be 95%. Listings taken to listings sold. I wrote down our coaching clients average between 85 and 90% taken to sold. So that's just the rule of thumb. You know your numbers better than I do. Let's skip down to the buyer. And by the way, once you know 8, 9, and 10. So for instance, if I know that I want to sell, just to keep numbers simple, I want to sell 10 listings. All right. So if I want to sell 10 listings and I know that I sell all but 15% of them, then guess what? I have to take 12 listings, right? It's kind of 11 and a half, but let's just round up. I have to take 12 listings to sell 10. And in order to take 12 listings, if I'm taking 60% of the appointments I go on, I probably need to go on about 20 appointments, right? So that's, you kind of work backwards there. You figure out, all right, how many written sales do I need for listings? How many written sales do I work for buyers? And then you work your way backwards there. Speaking of buyers, let's take a look at buyers. 11, 12, and 13 out of the plan. So the agents that work with us tell us they get about 2/3 of every client that they meet for the first time, whether it be a buyer consultation or a first showing. They get about 2/3 of those clients to work with them. 2/3 of those clients will write at least one offer with them, right? I'm talking a first showing or I'm talking a buyer consultation. Obviously, I know a lot of you guys have been doing those via Zoom. So if 2/3, right? So let's just use 66%. 2/3 of the clients you meet are going to write an offer with you. Then I need to know how many offers do you have to write to get a sale accepted. Now, every market's a little different. Obviously, we know inventory is low across the country. Depending on how good you are at getting offers accepted, we did a whole session in the Glover U Inner Circle on the buying power guarantee and how to present buying power to a buyer. So if you're not in the Glover U Inner Circle, get in there because we put videos in there nonstop about that. And it's a video all about how to get offers accepted. Well, by the way, I'm being told most of our agents are getting about 2/3 of their offers accepted. So 2/3 of the buyers you meet are going to write with you. That's 66%. 2/3 of the offers you do write are going to get accepted. Again, 66%. So then I know if I want to write 10 buyer sales, well, then I need to add about 33% to that number. So I probably need to write about 14 offers to get 10 buyer sales accepted. You follow me? And in order to write 14 offers, I need to add 33% to that number, because how many buyers do I need to meet in order to write those 14 offers? And the answer is, let's see, 33%, quick math. The answer is probably 17 or 18 buyers I need to meet in order to have 14 buyer offers written. You follow me? So you work those numbers backwards. Now, then you take number 10 and you take number 13 and you combine them, and boom, there you go. You have your answer for total combined written sales. And by the way, total combined written sales should match, looking back at the screen here, should match what your written sales goal is here as well. And then from there, you figure out what your closing ratio is, and then boom, there's your closed deal goal there. All right. So a lot of this stuff you have to work backwards to arrive at the actual number. Next, let's take a look at sections 3 of the plan. New ways to generate business and current effective ways. Very simple part of the plan here. Basically, what I want you to do, I want you to take 2 things that you're doing that are currently working from your current plan, right? So you got go back to your 2020 plan. By the way, you should not do this activity without having this in front of you, without having whatever business plan it is you put together in front of you, because you're going to need to reference this. So I want you to write down, you got 5 things you can write in there, right? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I want you to write in there 2 things that you're doing that are working that you've implemented this year, right? These are ways that I'm generating business. These are effective ways. I want you to write in a minimum of 2. Now, many of you, if you've got a real big business, you might be doing 15 things, right? So then you're just going to add extra paper, add extra notes to this. You can copy and paste this into your own document. We don't care. But I want you to write at a minimum, ready? For the average leader or the average team member or the average agent out there, I want you to do a minimum of writing out 2 things that you're doing right now that are working. You write them in right there, number 1 and number 2. I want you to write 2 things that are from the plan, the original 2020 plan, that you haven't implemented yet, right? So somewhere in here, and I won't take too much time to find it, but somewhere in the plan, it talks about, in fact, let's see. In this original plan, you have a action items to implement to generate new business. And you wrote out 10 things you're going to do in 2020 to generate new business. Well, my guess is you probably haven't gotten to implementing them all, because some things you're going to do quarter 1, some quarter 2, some quarter 3. What I want you to do is I want you to go visit that part of the plan, and I want you to identify 2 things that are still relevant that you want to incorporate in the last half of the year. I want you to write down 2 things that still apply to your business post-COVID for the last half of the year. So we're going to write in 2 things that you're doing that are working. Go ahead and jot those down. Then I want you to write in 2 things that you haven't got a chance to implement yet, but you still want to. And then ready for this? On the 5th line, I want you to write down 1 new thing that you've learned in the last 60 days that was not part of this plan, all right? And it's something that you've wanted to take action on. Let's be honest. I did a stupid video the other day where I said death by Zoom, and everyone was poking fun at me because I had the camera like right here. The reality is that I did that because, and I said death by Zoom because we've all been zoomed out, right? We've all been, and we've got several hundred people on the session. I don't know, we might hit 1,000, I'm not sure. But everyone's kind of zoomed out right now. Well, my hope is this is your last Zoom session for a while, except for at least until next Wednesday at 11:30 for our next session of Really. But the reality is, all the webinars you've been on, all the Zooms you've done, you're like zoomed out right now, right? So I want you to go back and look at all the stuff that you have learned in the last 60 to 75 days, essentially since we've been in shelter in place. And I want you to identify 1 thing that you heard that you want to take action on. You probably wrote it down somewhere. You'll probably have to go back and revisit your notes to find it. But I want you to write down 1 thing. So you got 2 that you're doing that are working, 2 that are from the original plan that you haven't taken action on yet, and 1 that you've heard in the last 75 days that you're like, oh, that's a good idea. I need to add that to my plan. Put that right there in section 5. Section 4, I'm sorry, right there in section 3. Section 4, again, for those of you that were joining us late, you're going to get a copy of this plan after this session. It's going to be sent out. I just want you to take notes, on a blank sheet of paper or on your laptop or in a Word document or wherever. So that way, when you get a copy of the plan, you can take all these notes and boom, put it right side by side with it. Section 4, new plan to add value to the database to generate repeat and referral. Here's the thing. If you were at our summit in Orlando, which it seems like it was so long ago now since we were all together and had a lot of fun and a great group, excuse me, we spent a lot of time talking about how you can add value to your database to generate repeat and referral business. We spent a lot of time talking about things you can do. I mean, we had panels, we had people from all over the country, we had breakout sessions. The whole focus of those 3 days in Orlando was how can you add value to your database so you get more repeat and referral business. 3 full days we spent on that. Unfortunately, because of COVID, a lot of those things that you wrote down, a lot of those things that you planned on taking action on, a lot of those things that were going to be part of your plan just did not happen. Because let's say, for instance, the biggest one that we hear everyone talk about, client events, right? So what I want you to do in this section, I want you to write down things you can do to add value to your database in the new post-COVID era, right? So, for instance, we have every April a Detroit Tigers opening day party for 500-600 of our best clients. Obviously, we weren't able to do that. So we're looking at things we can do throughout the year instead of that, things that are either virtual or things that are in group settings, but they're smaller settings, people are spread out, whatever. So you have to think about things you can do to add value to your database, wipe the slate clean, right? Like you had written down here. Oh, right there, boom. It's section 7 in the original plan. You guys, I did the 2020 video. We put it on YouTube, so many of you maybe had a chance to see it. Action items that add value to the database. You go back to this and you look at what applies now and what doesn't. And I want you to write in the things that do apply now, things that you can do, and a couple things that maybe you've heard of in the last several weeks of people doing to add value to their database. I'll give you a couple examples, okay? You could maybe go Facebook Live more often with market updates of what's happening in the market. Your Facebook friends, that is your database. That is your sphere of influence. There's nothing you can do on Facebook that notifies 100% of your friends like going live on Facebook. So utilize that, right? You can maybe deliver sanitizer and masks to clients. Even though the news is coming out that the numbers are dropping and the percentage of people testing positive, those numbers are dropping as well. There's still going to be some regulations, some rules, some concerns around wearing masks and using sanitizer frequently. So why couldn't you deliver masks and sanitizers to your best referring clients? That would be a great way to add value to generate repeat and referral. I've heard of people doing bingo via virtual Zoom. I've heard of drag queen bingo. I've heard of happy hour, right? You send out a survey to your 20 best clients or your 100 best clients, and you give them 5 options. What is your favorite drink? You got the margarita, you got a Moscow Mule, you got a Corona Light, whatever. You give them 5 options, and they pick their favorite drink. And then within a few days, they get something that shows up at their doorstep. Let's say they selected margarita, right? So they get a little thing of Patron tequila and a little thing of lime juice and an invite to join, for a happy hour at 5 o'clock this Friday for my 20 best clients. Bring your drink, mix your drink, make it. We're all going to join together. Here's the link to join. It's a nice little invite that goes out. Why not? You got to think of things that are outside the box. I know many of you guys are already doing that. Sharing mortgage information. Obviously, I know most of you aren't mortgage loan officers and maybe aren't qualified to give mortgage advice, but people right now want to know what's happening with the rates. When is the last time you updated your sphere of influence on what's going on with rates so maybe they can refinance their house, right? Save them money on their monthly payments. They're looking to you as the one-stop resource. Take advantage of that. We went as far as we created a landing page called Improve My Shelter. We took the stance in the month of April and the first part of May. We took the stance of, in Michigan, we were handcuffed. We couldn't go meet with anybody. So we're going to give you things that you can do to improve your home's value. We are listing properties like gangbusters right now because we spent a lot of time adding value to our clients and prospective clients in the last 60 days. So what can you do to add value, things that are relevant to right now post-COVID? Go back to your original plan, copy over 1 or 2 things that you can still do that you want to do, and then write in two or three new things that apply to the post-COVID era. Write that in on section 4. All right, continuing along, stay with me here. Oh, look at that. Yes, we are doing our Live Unreal retreat October 5th through the 7th in Chicago. Yep, that's right. I know you're probably thinking, how is it possible that you can plan that? Well, we had our original retreat in July in Traverse City, and we know that people are not going to be willing to get on a plane to come up here in July in Traverse City. So we're moving it to Chicago because more people can drive there. And of course, as plans come out with how we're handling 6 feet social distancing and so forth, we'll let you know. But if you're looking to get to a real estate conference, this will be an awesome one, and we will be respecting everyone's health and safety. That's the Live Unreal Retreat 2020, October 5th through the 7th in Chicago. We'll have more details on that. Okay, so we're still on section 4, new plan to add value to the database to generate repeat and referral business. All right, so continuing with daily, looks like it got in there twice. Okay, let me fast forward. Sorry about that. Weekends worked. We are on now section 5 of the plan, weekends worked. How many weekends per month in June, July? How many weekends through August to December, Saturday, Sunday? The whole concept here is that right now there's a lot of pent-up demand in most markets across the country. And I'll never forget early on, one of my first coaches told me about this whole idea of ROI in your time. And the conversation was, Jeff, you realize in a season market especially, the value of your time in the summer in the business is a lot higher than the value of your time, say, in October or November, right? More listings are going on the market. Now, again, I believe you make your own market, but if you're just looking at market data, all right, the value of your time is higher in the summer months than it is in the winter months in most markets, right? Seasonal or not. So what I'm recommending that you do is you identify, because if you remember, as part of your plan, somewhere in here, yep, there it is. The original plan had my weekend schedule and then how many weekends I'm going to work per month. What I'm recommending you do there is whatever that number is that you had written down. Let's say you're going to work 2 weekends per month. I'm going to recommend in the month of June and July, you bump that up by 1 and you increase that to 3. Or if you had 3 written down, I'd bump that up to 4, right? If you had 1 written down, bump that up to 2, all right? I'm going to encourage you to increase the amount of weekends that you spend in the business in June and July at a higher level, because the return on your time, right? Just getting in the way of leads and transactions. You're going to do more business by being involved in business during those months than any other month of the year, especially because of all the pent-up demand. Now, by the way, I'm not a huge proponent of working every weekend. I'm not a huge proponent of working every Saturday and Sunday, right? I'm suggesting you pick one of the two, Saturday or Sunday. And I'm also encouraging you, if you're writing in there how many weekends per month in June and July, the number's 3, I'm okay with you going back down to 1 or 2 in August, December. I believe if you put in an extra weekend or 2 in June and July, it's going to give you a better chance of getting caught up with your goals. Then, of course, Saturday, Sunday hours, I want you to write in your actual hours, right? I'm going to work Saturdays 9 to 2 times 3 of them. Sunday 10 to 4 times 2 of them. Whatever it is, I want you to write that in that spot there. Again, you're going to get a copy of this plan. Section 6, your new morning routine. Pretty self-explanatory. You guys know how big I am on the morning routine, right? Own the morning, win the day, master your morning, everything else falls into place. This is effective June the 1st. So starting June 1. So I know a lot of people are going to listen to this and watch this after the June 1st. So this is starting June 1. What you do from the time you get up until lunchtime, I want to know essentially every half hour. I want it time blocked. If you master the morning, everything else will fall into place, right? If you have a strong morning schedule, you don't have to worry about the afternoon or the evening schedule. For years and years, we used to ask our agents to put together a schedule that was from the time they get up until the time they're home with their family. We don't even ask for that anymore. All of our coaching clients, we just ask them for a morning schedule, because we know if you master the morning, everything else will fall into place. So I want to know what your new morning routine is starting June 1st. Now, I realize, depending on what happens with the school year, right? I realize that this might need to change come September, come August, whenever back to school takes place, however back to school takes place. So this new morning routine may only be, for those of you with children, June, July, and August. It may only be, a couple months worth. But for those that don't have kids, or if you do have kids and you've got somebody else to help out, you may be able to work from this schedule the entire rest of the year. So I want to know what your new morning routine is. Section 7, I want to know what new scripts you're going to master due to COVID, all right? For those of you that have been attending our half-day sessions or paying attention to any of the videos that I've been putting in the inner circle on Facebook, if you knew, write this down, all right? You're following along, so write this down, section 7, okay? This is a perfect script that you can use to determine motivation right now. If you knew there were a financial advantage by making a move now, knowing full well you could do it safely, would you like to learn how? If you knew that there was actually a financial advantage by making a move now, knowing full well you could do it safely, would you like to learn how? If you knew that there were a financial advantage to making a move now, knowing full well you could do it safely, would you like to learn how? Okay. I need to know what scripts you're going to need to master due to COVID. I need to know, depending on your marketplace, depending on what sorts of businesses. We talked a lot about when I did that session, 24 ways to rid the coronavirus from your business. One of the things we talked about, which if you haven't had a chance to watch that, you can just Google that. Just do Jeff Glover 24 ways or Jeff Glover coronavirus and click on videos. No, I'm not the MMA fighter. All right. That's somebody else. So if you're looking for different sources of business, I talk about that in that video, and this would be an opportunity to write in what script it is you need to master. Number 8, new operating procedures, training needed. All right. This would be a good opportunity to look at what your strengths are in your business currently, what your weaknesses are, and pick a program, pick a session, pick a trainer, pick something that you can implement, right? So you may say, you know what, I've got this whole sales thing down. but I'm very weak at recruiting. I'm very weak at training. I'm very weak at motivating. I'm very weak at kind of running a business. I've never learned how to run a business. I've just been a real estate salesperson. Well, then I would recommend probably our business mastery program with Matt Sutter, which by the way starts next week. But anyways, identify what program or what training it is that you need to implement for the rest of the year to make sure you stay on track with your goals. You can't do it alone. Everyone needs a coach. I've personally had a coach since 2005. And if you have an opportunity to check out any of our programs, I would encourage you to do so at gloveru.com. So identify what training is needed, what new operating procedures there are in your business. Obviously, the Live Unreal retreat, we'd love to see you in Chicago in October. We're bummed we have to move it, but obviously you know why that has to take place. I want to know what is necessary in order to help you finish the year strong. And it's probably some level of training. It's probably some product, it's probably some service, it's probably some accountability. And I want to know what those things are. So write what you need to know in there. All right. Section 9, one of my favorite parts of the business plan. Source to double down on and source to eliminate. You know, we're now, 5 months through the year? We're into June, basically. You know what's working and what's not. I want you to go back and look at either the first 5 full months of the year or look at the last 12 months. I want you to pick one of the sources that's been working well for you, and I want you to double down on it. Meaning, you know, if you're making phone calls and sending text messages, doubling down. What does that mean? Well, that means going and doing door knocks, right? If you're allowed to do door knocks right now. It means sending a mass mailer or direct mail, right? Adding other pieces. The biggest mistake agents make is they spread themselves too thin, right? They dabble, right? I'm going to try this. I'm going to try that. You know, the best agents in the business, the best brokers and team leaders that are running large teams in the business have 1 or 2 sources that they own, 1 or 2 sources that they're known for. What source are you known for? Honestly, if your name were to come up, if I were to ask your peers in your office, hey, that Johnny, what's Johnny good at? Oh, man. Johnny is phenomenal with internet buyer leads. I don't know how he converts them so quickly and gets so many buyers to say yes to an appointment, right? Find some source, own it, and double down on it. And then for those of you that are spending money on a source, I know a lot of you cut expenses on some sources of business, but if there's a source that was part of your original plan that you don't plan on bringing back or that you're doing right now and you're not getting results with it, and asterisk, you've been taking action on it for at least 6 months, big lesson there. Don't think that something's not working just because you haven't had success in the first 3-4 months. 6 months minimum before you measure and decide whether it makes sense to extend or get rid of something. Pick a source to double down on, pick a source to eliminate. And section 10, I want to know, by the way, you can text scripts to 33777 to get a copy of all of our scripts. Most of you guys have them. If you want all of our scripts, you can go ahead and text the word scripts to 33777. Section 10, the reward for hitting the goals, right? When you look back at the end of 2020 and say, man, there was a little bit of a hiccup because of COVID, or I had a little bit of a setback, but because I put together a new plan and got back on track, if I get back on track and I hit that number 22 closed or 32 closed or 52 closed or 102 closed, whatever it is, then I'm going to do A, B, and C for myself. I want to know what you're going to do to reward yourself and reward your family. Because the reality is, number one, your family has to put up with you and your hours, all right? Because you're probably putting in more hours in the summer than you had planned on, especially if you're a little behind on your goals. I want to know what you're going to do for your family if you hit your goals and you get back on track, and you fill that out in section 10 there. All right, last couple things here. If you haven't had a chance, each and every week, every Thursday, Live Unreal podcast. You can find that in, obviously Apple, Spotify. There's different sources where you can get that Live Unreal podcast. Every week I'm putting an issue, or I'm putting something out there. Any one of our coaching programs, if you have any questions on any of these, you can go to gloveru.com. I know many of you are looking at your last half of the year and thinking, what program do I need to get into? These are our main programs that agents sign up for. We have close to 200 agents across the country that work with us now in one of these programs, including our next one, which is Business Mastery with Matt Sutter, which is starting next week. Which, by the way, if you're interested in that one, because I know a lot of you, because of Relead, broker, owner, team leaders, it's gloveru.com/business mastery. gloveru.com/business mastery. That does start next week. I think they only have 1 or 2 spots left. Most of you are already aware of the Inner Circle. If you're not in there, make sure you get into the Glover U Inner Circle on Facebook. Every time we've got a new video or something, a script, a dialogue, a system, a tool, boom, we put it in there. And finally, again, my name's Jeff Glover with Glover U. Thank you for joining me. You will get a copy of your physical plan. Probably you'll have it in the next 30 minutes. And if you have any questions at any time, you may email us at info@gloveru.com. Again, info@gloveru.com. I hope you enjoyed the session and got a ton out of it. Good luck for the last half of next year plus June. And let's finish the year strong and let's kick COVID's butt. See you guys.